Hello everyone, today we're going to be doing Primo, Principio, Chapter 4, Conclusion 4. The first efficient cause is intelligent and is endowed with a will. So these are going to be arguments for the mindedness of God. First, if natural agents act for an end, then they are directed by a mind, for there is no difference between natural agents internally, whether they are directed to an end or not. However, natural agents do act for an end, therefore they are directed by a mind. Proof number 2. This is my personal favorite. All agents act for an end. Every end is sought either of necessity or will. Now, this is important to understand what we mean by necessity here. It essentially just means non-willed. It includes non-volitional chance. So if you think of, maybe you think like quantum events are like objectively just like chancy events. This includes those as well. So what is included under necessity is just non-willed action. So every end is either sought of necessity. This is non-volitional chance. This and non-volitional chance, or of will. So every agent either acts of necessity or of will. But the first agent only loves itself of necessity, therefore the first agent wills all things other than itself. The first agent can only necessarily seek a final end at least as great as itself, since nothing surpasses it, and the end has to be at least as good as the agent seeking the end. So it can't necessarily seek anything other than itself. So all of the other actions that it takes that aren't part of it loving itself must be things that it does of will. They cannot be from chance or of necessity. Proof number 3. The first cause directs its effects to an end. This is either done of necessity or will. Everything that directs another to an end does so in virtue of some knowledge. The first cause directs either in virtue of its own knowledge or in virtue of the knowledge of another. There is no other in virtue of which it could direct others, because there's no agent before it. Therefore, it must direct others in virtue of its own knowledge. Proof number 4. If necessitarianism is false, then the first cause causes volitionally, or through a will. Necessitarianism is false, therefore the first cause causes volitionally. Objection 1. Our wills could still cause contingently, even if the first cause worked of necessity. Now, his reply to this objection weirds me out. He just agrees with it, and then he just addresses 2 other objections as if he believes in the argument. It's very strange. He doesn't even put this in the section with the other argument that he rejects. Objection number 2. Contingency comes from the interaction of parts. Well, contingency has to do with the ability to not exist or to exist at any time, but things are only capable of this by volition, so volition has to be the operator here. And then objection 3, contingency comes from some agents preventing others to act. Well, if the prevention happens of necessity and the original action happens of necessity, then everything happening here is necessary. Again, he seems to agree with objection 1, so I'm not entirely sure why he presents the argument or the other objections. Proof number 5. If the first agent acted of necessity, there would be no evil, for an agent without a will could not cause something which it allowed to fail in fulfilling its purpose. But there is evil, therefore the first agent acts of a will. This is to say that if God did not have a will and he caused the world, he would necessarily cause everything to be as good as it possibly can be to the fullest extent. But we see evil, therefore the first agent must be able to act of a will which is capable of choosing to allow some agents to fail in their action. Proof 6. Proof 6, question mark. A living thing is better than anything that isn't alive. Among living things, those with intelligence are better. This is exactly what he says in the text. I don't know how it's an argument. He doesn't connect it. Yeah. And then proof 7, the intellect and will are pure perfections. The first being has every pure perfection. Therefore, the first being has an intellect and a will. This is actually another argument that he explicitly rejects, and here's his objection. The pure perfections are only known by knowing the perfections of the first being. But if you start with the premise that they are pure perfections to prove that the first being has them, then you assume the conclusion in the first premise, which begs the question. That is to say that this argument only works if you assume the truth of the conclusion in the first premise. But obviously we're trying to prove the conclusion, so you can't use the first premise in the argument. Yeah, that'll be all for this video.